guys, this is Alex, and I do want to make this video. This is a video buying guides for Mercedes S-Class W220. This specific one is on my 2000 S500. I did own a few more in the past that I've mentioned in the previous videos, and I do want to talk about top things to consider before owning one, and kind of going through, you know, the most biggest things you want to kind of think about of getting one. So the top things you want to consider before getting one is, number one, of course, is the price. That'll be your budget, right? I'm a car salesman, so I always say doesn't matter if your budget is $2,000, $5,000, $25,000 or $50,000. That's a ton of money, because that's your budget. So, you know, whatever your budget is, figure that out. If you want to own one of these, they'll be the number one. Of course, you can get one as cheap as $2,000 to $3,000. Of course, it'd probably be extremely high miles and poor condition. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that unless you're extremely mechanical, tech savvy. You'd love to work on vehicles. You want to do all the work, maintenance yourself, and you know what you're getting yourself into. So that's number one you want to think about. But it generally range from, you know what I mean, a lower price one, in my opinion, probably start at right around $5,000 maybe for a good condition one, all the way up to $15,000 to $20,000. You know, if you're getting extremely low mile AMG model or S600 or something like that. So that's the number one thing you want to think about. Figure out your price, figure out your budget. If you're going to be owning one, that's going to be the number one determinator. Then number two, of course, will be the engine and trim. Of course, trim goes by engine. There's multiple different varieties of W220 S-Class you can get from the years from 1999 to 2006, especially on the European market when there's a lot of diesels available for the W220. For the North American market, which is where I'm at, you don't have as much options, but you generally have the most common ones will be the S500, which is this. The S430 is also very common. You do have two trim models of the AMG. You have a pre-facelift one, which is S55, producing about 355 horsepower. That one does not have a compressor, and the facelift one puts in the mechanical compressor, which boosted up to 501 horsepower, which is pretty severe. Although that engine does require a lot more maintenance. I did own an S55 AMG in the pre-facelift one. I dare to say the engine is extremely smooth. It runs very good. The power is solid. You can definitely tell the difference between that and the S500, which is 306 horsepower. So you want to figure out the engine. There is a V6 S350, not that common in the North American market. It definitely has less power, producing about 270 horsepower. And that one, certain models do have a problem with the balancer shafter, and you know, depending on one, you can get a 4MATIC in that too, though. So it really depends. It would be a little bit more fuel economy and probably just a tiny idea less on the maintenance, but they're not that popular. And then, of course, you can get the flagship, which is the V12. You can get the S600, which is, of course, extremely solid vehicle. The power is great. These are usually the most top of the line, loaded one with the most features available for these models, including very nice wood trim, steering wheel, mahogany, and all that stuff. Do keep in mind the S600 V12 engines will require the most maintenance. It'll probably be the most expensive alongside with the S55 AMG compressor one. So I did had three of the engines that W220 S-Class has. I did had two S500s V8s. I did had one S430 4MATIC, and I had one S55 AMG pre-facelift. I dare to say they're all very good. They're solid. If these engines are kept very well with the you know, oil filter change on time, spark plugs, ignition coils, crank position sensors, stuff like that, O2 sensors when needed, these engines are extremely solid. So you do want to think about that. They're great engines. You know, they determine the price, of course. So figure out again what your budget is and get the best engine you want. You know, in my opinion, any V8s on the W220 are extremely solid. So that's probably be the number 2 that you want to consider. Number 3 that you want to consider in W220, it's also probably miles, kilometers in Europe. Of course, that is extremely big one. That's something also for me to think about. When I was getting my W220s, I did purchase one for relatively solid, higher retail price. The AMG I had 71,000 miles when I bought it. I purchased it for 10,500. I was like 4 years ago from a dealership. One original owner, had everything original, been garaged. It was an amazing vehicle. And also this one, that is the 2000 S500. That one also has 57,000 miles, and also paid, you know, close to a retail price for that one too. So these are pretty big because, again, low miles will, you know, not always, but for the most part, it will translate to a lot better condition of the vehicle, a lot more of the features working properly, a lot least of issues and stuff like that. So this is a big one. Again, in North America, all miles on vehicles are accurate. In Europe, in some countries, like for example, where I'm from, it's not necessarily the case. But you do want to, the condition, even if you're in a country where your potential odometer rollback, which is going to be where I'm from, is you can still check the condition, take the vehicle for mechanic check out, make sure you look at it thoroughly and all that. So again, this is a big one on these. My personal recommendation would probably be getting one with anywhere from 80 to 120, 130,000 miles, maybe 150 if it has been very well kept. So miles is a big one. Also color combo, that's a big one too. Of course, there's a lot of black ones out there. Black one is stuff to keep clean, of course, especially on these years if it hasn't been garaged properly. I did own 2 black ones and 2 silver ones, and I will for sure say that silver ones were much better in terms of being able to keep them clean. But there's a lot of color combos out there, so you definitely have options. Of course, as well as interior, you can get a black one, Napa gray ash, you can get a beige one, and they make a very limited brown interior as well. So these will be probably one of the top things you guys want to consider before owning one. Of course, the other stuff is going to be the maintenance. This is a big one. You do always want to make sure you have budget set up, you know, for the maintenance of these guys, because it's not going to be cheap. I mean, maintenance requires a lot, in my opinion. You know, if you only one around the North American market, you do need to have set aside at least a few thousand for potential maintenance that might come up. And yeah, I think, in my opinion, the other thing too is the last one. I'll probably say this is the biggest thing in my opinion. You do want to consider, of course, rear-wheel drive versus 4MATIC. And of course, you do have options for a very nice, you know, rear-wheel drive one that, like I said, I mentioned in my previous video, you can certainly get if the suspension works properly, if you have solid tires. I think it's going to be a very safe vehicle over in the winter. I mean, I've driven my AMG with brand new tires over snow and stuff like that, and it handled very well, perfectly fine, matter of fact. So that's something that you want to think about. But of course, the 4MATIC one, I did own one, and it handles pretty amazingly. So if you can get your hands on one, especially a reliable one, I do recommend it. Do keep in mind, if anything goes wrong with the drive shaft, axles, anything like that, the maintenance of the 4MATIC version will naturally be more. So these are the top things to consider before owning a W220. In my opinion, it's totally worth owning one. I'm actually here at Mercedes of Seattle buying some parts for it, like hood struts and CD changer unit. So great vehicle. Hopefully that video helps out somebody who wants to own one. Like and subscribe. If you have any questions in the comments below, you can let me know. Thank you.